Okay. Holding on the bottom of 21a, Vatikach Tamar, Ifer al Resha. It's 3 lines from the bottom. Okay. Thank Hashem that they will learn Torah every day. It's supposed to have a learning. Hashem, based on English immediately. Learning Lil Nishmas have a gold Basparach Yamin and the sons of Ben Mitzian, which were Shleimah, Rabbi David Ben Sarah, Tal Getzel Yosef Ben Torah, and my father, then Miriam Adel, Chaim Ben Sarah.
Morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Moshe. Where is that?
I'm in DC still. I'm on my way to St. Louis.
Okay. We're starting Vatikach Tamar. So Tamar took. What happened was she was feeding Amnon, who made believe he was sick, and then Amnon raped her, his sister, right? Same father. And then after he raped her, he hated her very much. He kicked her out of the house. So Tamar leaves the house. She puts ashes on her head. And the garment, the clothing that she was wearing, she tore. Tana Mishmeid Rabbi Shua ben Karcha. Was taught in a Bryce in the name of Rabbi Shua ben Karcha. Geder Gadol Gadra Tamar Ba'isa Shah. Tamar set up a big fence at that time. By her crying, she created a big restriction. Amru, they said, if this could happen to a princess, that a girl could be raped, for sure to a commoner that could happen. And if for a girl that's modest this happens, so a prutza, a girl that's immodest, for sure this could happen. Rav Yehuda says name of Rabba Isisha Gazru. At that time they decreed ala yichad v'ala pnuya, not to be secluded with the woman, and even if she's not married. Now, Umar asks right away, okay, yichad daraisa, yichad daraisu. Yichad, this is not a decree that was made in the days of David's children. This is a Torah law. Rabbi Yochanan Mishum Reb Shimon ben Yitzadok. Rabbi Yochanan says the name of Reb Shimon ben Yitzadok. Okay. Remez liyichud min atayr minayin. What's a source for yichud that is prohibited? That seclusion with a woman is prohibited. The source is Shnemar ki yisischa chicha ben imecha. Okay. If your brother, who is the son of your mother, leads you astray. And ben av einamesis. What do you mean? Your brother that leads you astray is only the son of your mother and not the son of your father? It's only a maternal brother? Ishmael is the same father. That's Yitzchak. Different mother. Here we're saying the same mother. Ben av einamesis. So Elalai Malach is coming to tell you, Ben Misyachidim Imai. It would be that they would be hanging out with their mother, because that would be typical for children, for the sons to be with the mother, not with the father. And therefore, a son could be with the mother. The only relative that's prohibited for you to marry, that you're allowed to be with, secluded, is your mother. That's the only one that's permissible. I'm surprised. What about sister, brother and sister?
I was stepsisters.
No, that's
different.
well. 1 second. The stepsisters is means that they don't share the parents, right?
Step is only parent.
Right?
Yeah.
No parent, right?
Or one of the parents.
Or one parent.
Parents, parents' spouse.
Parents' spouse.
But here it looks like that there's no that even if they're both parents. No, that's what it appears. Even both parents. Even real brother and sister, it seems like it's prohibited.
Yeah. I heard
It's a little
it was kind of
surprising,
like-
I was told that for on long-term basis, they weren't supposed to be like living together. But but yichud, it wasn't really a problem of yichud, like the door closes and one of them has to jump out the window. You know, it wasn't that type of yichud, but it was they weren't supposed to actually like rent an apartment together. That's what I was told. Okay.
The halacha.
You have a halacha note? What does it say?
I didn't read it, but it says it is forbidden for him to be secluded with any woman related to him by one of the forbidden relationships listed in the Torah, whether he is old. The exceptions are a mother and her son, a father and his daughter, and a husband and his menstruating mother.
Well, doesn't seem like there's really an exception for the sister.
This is according to Rambam.
Well, okay. Elaim, so the Gemara says, why is this a question? Oh, this is a question because we said that this was a decree that was made after Tamar tore her clothing and she was crying in the street. And so they made this decree. 1 second, we have a biblical source for this, right? We have a biblical source. Why are you telling me it's a decree that came later? What came later was the prohibition, was the decree that you can't be secluded with a woman that you could even marry. So even a woman that you're allowed to marry, because she's not married to anyone. She's not related to you. She's not your relative. So really, what's the problem? You can marry her, so why can't you be secluded? Well, you're not married yet. That's the problem. You can't have yichud with that. Yeah. Now, it's interesting because they learned this from a story that this wasn't actually Tamar was a pnuya, but this would be following the view that Tamar wasn't related to David halachically, and therefore it would be a regular pnuya that really that Amnon could have married her, because Tamar, we learned that Tamar was the daughter of Yephastaya. She was a convert, so she wasn't really related to Amnon and David. Okay. Now it says Adoniya ben Chagis misnasi leimarni amlech. Adoniya, right? That was his name. He was the son of Chagis, was David's wife, David's son. He said, how do they translate misnasi? He raised himself up. He what? Exalted himself to say, I will be king. Am Rav Yehuda Marav. Rav Yehuda says, name Marav. This teaches us that he tried to fit the crown on his head, but it wouldn't fit on his head. Now, Rashi tells me this interesting thing, that there was a pole in the crown that went from one end to the other. And he tried to put it on his head, like on the Sefer Torah. There's can't put that whole thing on your head because there's these two rods that go in the middle, and the rods have these circles that hold the. So anyway, the crown had this rod that went through it, and in order for it to fit, you had to have like a groove in the head that went in, up and down, a groove. So you try to put it on, it wouldn't go on. So I guess only kings had that groove in the head. Yeah, that would be sort of difficult to hide if you're a king. Like the kings, like they make believe they dress up in common clothes, and they say, "Yeah, 1 second, what about that big groove in the head?" So, vayasle rechav uprashim v'chamishim mishratzim lefanav, he has a chariot and riders. What does it say? Rechav is the riders, and prashim are chariots, and there's 50 people running in front. The Gemara says, "My Rabusa, big deal, 50 people. Okay." He's a prince. He has people running in front of him. I'm Rav Yehuda Marav. Rav Yehuda says, no, it is a big deal because those people, Kuli Netuli Tchol, all of them were missing their spleens. They had put some potion They drank some potion that made their spleen dissolve, which helps them run faster. And they were missing their heels. The heels were gone. Apparently, that makes them run faster.
I thought it meant the feeling in the heel.
That could be. Here it says, what does it say? Chakuke, it sounds like it's carved out. Ein basar bepersisim. They didn't have flesh. So it didn't have any give that would slow them down. Right? Lo yar b'lei susim. Yeah, the Mishnah says the king is not supposed to increase his horses, multiply, probably it says. Elikadei merkavta, only the amount that he needs for his chariot. The kesev is avli yar b'lei maidin. He shouldn't increase his silver and gold. Elikadei litain aspanya, only to give sustenance to his soldiers. There's another version of this, afsanya. His expenses, only to cover his expenses for his soldiers, his army. The right to say Torah for him. If he goes to battle, he takes the Sefer Torah with him. If he enters, into his room, he takes it with him. If he's sitting in judgment, it's with him. Mesev, if he's reclining, he has it next to him. With him, he reads from it all of his life.
I heard that Congress recently increased their salary. Yeah. It's like who would vote against that?
How much does the Congress get paid?
I think it's like extraordinary.
It doesn't matter what they get paid. They don't get the job.
It's fun.
All the other money they get. That's
Yeah,
the bonus.
that's
Like
Bonus.
their pay is just a bonus.
They fundraise or something.
They have interests in businesses.
Oh.
How do you think they all come out? Million? Out of $50 check.
Yeah. I just remember Jackie Mason's joke about the president. He said he heard there was an empty bed in the White House. So he wanted a job or something. Anyway, Tanur Rabbanan. The rabbis taught in a brisa, Layar b'lei susim, to not increase, multiply horses. Maybe that means even for his chariot and the riders. Talmud Laimar Loi says for him. You can't have more for him. In other words, just to feel good that look at all my horses. That he's not supposed to do. But for his what's necessary for his chariot, that he can have a certain amount of horsepower, right? So
they must order the horses from Europe. I don't think
oh, they're right. They got it from Egypt. Amani Makayim. So what do I do with the verse Susim? It says horses, plural. Susim habatlanim. That means idle horses, ones that aren't attached to your chariot. Why does it say? So how do I know that you can't even add one horse? Because it says a plural. How do you know that you can't even have one extra horse? It says you shouldn't increase horses. But it shouldn't increase a horse. That means even one. It says if you can't even have one extra, so then why does it say a plural? It's coming to tell me that it's not that you violate the prohibition once you have one extra horse. And then after that, you've already violated the same prohibition. No, every horse that you increase after that is another prohibition. That's what it's coming to teach us. Time of the Kasser Rahman Alai. What's the reason why we know this? Is because it says Lai. It says for him. But if it didn't say for him, then I would think that you can't even have for his chariot. I would have thought that he can't even have horses for his chariot. It says only for him he shouldn't have horses. But what are we going to do if the king is not going to have a chariot? What type of king is that? It's going to walk everywhere. It says talking about extra for the chariot. You would think that the chariot would just need to have those 2 horses in the front. And it would be like, like they give you a ride in Manhattan if you want to spend money. You go to there's some horses over there. Plus and Kala, every once in a while, they get a ride with some 2 horses. You would think that's what would be allowed. No, you're allowed to have 20 horses or whatever. But as long as it's attached to the chariot. Because if it's not supposed to multiply his gold and silver, only enough that he needs for his the wages of his soldiers. You shouldn't increase the gold and silver even to give for the salaries for the soldiers. He's allowed to, for himself, he shouldn't increase. Like just for greed. But what he needs to pay for the soldiers, that's allowed. Time of the Kasar Rahman Allah. The reason why we know that he's allowed to do this is because it says for him he shouldn't increase. But if it didn't say that word like, what do we think? That he wouldn't have money to cover his expenses? This is necessary for the extra bonuses that he wants to give them. He's able to, well, it doesn't actually, it means for more soldiers than he really needs. He should be able to have extra money to hire more and to give more if the time should come up. So in other words, I guess this is like how non-profits still have a profit, just in case they have to have more money than. No,
This sounds like they should have like enough to reinvest.
Right,
And-
to reinvest.
Profit, they make sure they have 0 and it's distributed.
That's what they have to do.
They don't have to, but that's what they do.
Rabbi Yehuda Rami. No, I skipped the layer. Hashdamet Lai Drasha. Now that we said that Lai, it has to be a drasha that we learned from the word Lai for him. We learned for the horses that it's only for him he can't add the horses, but he can add it for his chariot. And the money, it's only for him that he can't increase the money, but he could increase it for the soldiers. So then Layarba Lai Nashim Mai Darash, but what does it mean he can't? He shouldn't multiply for him women. What did we do with that? That means that if there's a commoner that wants to have more than 18 wives, that's allowed. Yeah.
I wonder what it says about like public works projects, like building like the statue inside this building.
Right. Right, that's a
things
big
like
deal.
that.
That's a big deal. By Shlomo Melech, he spent, I forget if it was 14 years, how many years, 11 years or 14 years building his houses, his palaces. Yeah. Okay. No, then he built the Beis Hamikdash. After that, he built. Yeah, he was waiting for permits. Rabbi Yehuda Rami. Rabbi Yehuda poses the following contradiction. You see, there's 2 records of history. As you go through the prophets, you have 1 record of history. And then you have another record of history as you go through the book of Chronicles, where it sort of repeats everything. So in the book of Malachim, in the book of Kings, it says, Vayhi Shleima Arboim Elef Urais Susim Lemerkavte. Shleima had 40,000 stalls of horses for his chariot. And there's another verse that says in Divrei Hayamim, in the book of Chronicles, he had 4,000. Well, it's just a 0 off. But what's the significance? Well, how does that work? How does this reconcile? If there were 40,000, if there were 40,000 stables, then in those stables there were 4,000 stalls. Each stable had 4,000 stalls. 40,000 times 4,000. 160 something. I don't
Yeah.
know what. What is it? 40,000 is how many zeros? It's
40,000?
it's 4 zeros plus another 3 zeros. So it's 7 zeros. So it's six. It's
That's
160 million. 160 million. Yeah. So Vim Dalet Alafim Mitztableis, if there were only 4,000 stables, then then there were 40,000 stalls in each stable, which is the same number. Okay. Rabbi Yitzchak Rami. Rabbi Yitzchak posed the following contradiction. It says in Malachim, no, that's in Divrei Yamim. In Divrei Yamim, it says that silver in the days of Shlomo wasn't considered anything. There was so much silver that it wasn't even it didn't even have value. It's like that mashal with the guy that went to the island that diamonds over there. They use schmaltz.
That's what happened with the Spanish. Discovered gold in South America. They dipped the economy.
Wow.
Whoa, thank you.
And it's also written, this is in Malachim. It says that Shlomo made the silver in Yerushalayim to be like regular pebbles. Now, pebbles also have value, but it's just not significant value. But it has some value. So what's going on? Does it have zero value or does it have some value? Like kasha. There's not a question. Before he married Bas Pare, so it had value like pebbles, like rocks, like stones. After he married Bas Pare, there was so much silver she brought in that it was even more than that. That's what I'm understanding, unless you have the opposite.
Yeah, they say after came in,
He lost his money,
started getting into worldly pleasures.
and then he lost his money.
So it became-
Is that how it explains it over there? So they say it the opposite.
So this is wealth of significance.
Oh, wow.
Owing to the sin of marrying Paro's daughter, Solomon suffered some loss of wealth. That's the Yad Ramah. Masha interprets differently. Before marrying Paro's daughter, Shlomo exclusively inquiring wisdom. Silver as gold is meaningless. Acquiring insight is preferable to silver. So then after the marriage, however, he indulged somewhat in worldly pleasures, thus his wealth took on some significance, if only that of stones. Which is a totally different shot. That's totally different. That it took some value, that it gets some value. Anyway, no one said, at least in those comments, no one says my shot, that he gained more wealth when he married Shlomo's daughter. But that's what I would have thought from the simple reading. But
Let him dry.
I guess the commentaries have a different interpretation. Okay. Amar Rabbi Yitzchak. Rabbi Yitzchak says, when Shlomo married the daughter of Pare, Yored Gavriel v'notz kana b'yam v'hela sirtin. The angel Gavriel came down and he put a stick in the sea and a sirtin. What is a sirtin?
Pasta.
Pasta?
Oh, we got wrong.
Sandbank.
A sandbank. Yitzi says pasta.
Pasta.
And on that was the great city of Rome. It was built on that sandbank.
Sure, so was that.
You know, when they built the World Trade Center, so they took the dirt out of the make the foundation, and they dumped it back in the Hudson.
Yeah.
And they built a whole area from the dirt that they took out. They extended the whole new area was built. Anyway,
Trash.
oh yeah,
Oh, yeah?
Kind of real estate is trash.
Star Island is trash?
Just close to.
It is.
The foundations.
Just the rest.
And the people go to.
But
Wow.
the government complains when people leave trash on the other islands.
I put the trash in the right place.
Amar Rabbi Yitzchak. Rabbi Yitzchak says, "Mipnei malei neskalo time Torah." Why? Why were the reasons for the laws in the Torah not revealed? I'm on 21b. There were two halachas that the Torah did reveal the reason for it, and one of the great people of the world stumbled on it. It says, it says you should not increase the wives, and then it goes on, it says, so that they don't lead your heart astray. He says, I'm going to increase wives, and I'm not going to be led astray. I can handle it. And it's written, when Shlomo got old, his wives led him astray. It's also written that he shouldn't increase horses, so that he doesn't return to Mitzrayim. I'm going to increase horses, and I won't return to Egypt. It says that he went to Egypt to get his horses.
Those were the only two halachas that had rationale.
That's what it says, yeah.
Because if the person thinks that the only reason why it's not done is for this, and when the rationale otherwise, then
Right. What did they say? That the reason for not to eat pig was because of trichinosis or something. Now that we don't have that problem, now it's okay, right? That's what would come out if you limit the laws to the reason. Then you would say, okay, no, we figured it out. Case of Sefer Torah Lishmai. Then he has to write he writes a Sefer. There's a Sefer Torah that he writes just for him. Tana b'vachla yisna b'shel aveisav.
Was it like honoring a goy or something because you were strangers, therefore?
Oh yeah. To a convert. Yeah, very good. That's a good point. So maybe you're gonna say, well, a convert doesn't have to treat another convert because he wasn't a stranger in Egypt. That's what we want to say. We'll limit it to only being a stranger in Egypt because you were once a stranger. Therefore, you shouldn't mistreat another stranger. Okay.
it says everyone was in Mount Sinai, so
Doesn't mean they were in Egypt.
I know that's the part.
Right. But he can't use the Torah that he got from his fathers. Amar Rava, Rabba. Even though his father left him a Sefer Torah, he has to write his own. That you should write this song. Abaya has a question to Rabba. Rabba is his teacher. It says, that he should write a Sefer Torah for him, that he shouldn't use others. That's only Melech. Oh, the statement of Rabbah was not for a king. The statement of Rabbah was for every person. Every person has to write a Sefer Torah. You can't say that my father had a Sefer Torah, so I'm good to go. So, but now, okay, 1 second, you're telling me the answer. The problem is that Abaya says, 1 second, I have a source that says that you can't use another Torah, that a king can't use someone else's Torah. Melech in Tadiyat Loi, but there's no problem for a commoner to use someone else's Torah. We're talking about that the king needs to have 2 Torahs. A regular person only needs to write 1. And the king has to have a second one that he didn't get from his father. He can't say that I have 1 from my father, 1 that I wrote. 3. The Tanya was taught in a brayso, the Mishnah. Gamer. The pasuk says that he has to write a second Torah. Kaisav l'shmai shtei Torah. Achar sheyitzes v'nichnas imay. Achar shemenachzai beis genazov. One that he keeps with him all the time, and one he puts into storage. He makes like an amulet, and he keeps it on his arm. I place Hashem before me at all times. From on my right side, I won't stumble, which means the Torah that's on his right will stop him from stumbling. He won't enter into it to a bathroom or to the bathhouse. Will be with him and he'll read from it. That's coming to teach me only places where you're eligible to read it, but not other places.
Did the commentary say what that was? That a whole Torah that was on his arm?
I see that the Rashash says that the second Torah was only a listing of the mitzvahs. That's the Rashash, but that I don't have from any earlier source. I don't think.
Did the king actually write the Torah, or is it like?
Oh.
Probably he got someone to write it for him. Unless the kings have a lot of free time back then to write a whole Sefer Torah.
I wouldn't think so.
No.
Not with all those wives, right? There were some. I think they said that Justinian was a Roman emperor or something. I think he was involved. He was just to spend his time studying, because the people didn't read. He wanted to learn how to read. It was like, read and write. Yeah, what's his name? Justinian. Lahavdil, of course. I heard of Shad that was what?
He's just an Indian.
Just
I heard of Shad that why does he have two Sefer Torahs? One that he puts in the storage. What does he need one in storage? What's the point of having one in storage? So it said like this. There was a cipher or something came to the school and was writing for everyone their name on it. Everyone was like holding it, and this one of the girls that got her name just left it on the floor or like whatever. They were very surprised. Like they said, "What's going on? It's a good girl. What's you don't care for it? It's like so no, you don't understand. My father's a cipher. We have scrolls all over the house. They're everywhere. I don't need another thing. I see this all the time. So therefore, the melech that always has a Sefer Torah with him, he always has to know that there's another Sefer Torah that's in its pristine. You keep it in the safe. You keep it in the. It has to be chashav. Otherwise, it just becomes. Yeah, I have loads of these. Don't worry, we use it. Use it as placemats. Chas v'shalom. Just it has to have its. You lose the respect if you have too much. Okay. Amar Marzutra Vitema Marukva. Ready for this Gemara?
Yep.
Okay. Marzutra says in the name of Marukva. Originally, I don't know what the I didn't use the Quran to read this through, but originally the Torah was written in the script, in an Ivri script. How do they translate Ivri? Is it like Sanskrit or something? No, the Lashon HaKodesh and the language was the holy language, but the script was the Ivri script.
Like the Dead Sea Scrolls.
I guess it's the ancient Hebrew, the old Hebrew script. Chazer v'nitlehem b'mei Ezra b'ksav Ashuris v'lashon Arami. But then during the days of Ezra, they changed the font, and the font became the Ashuris font, but the language was Aramaic. But the Jewish people chose the Ashuris font in the Hebrew language. They left the commoners with Ksav Ivris, with that old Hebrew, Lashon Arami and Aramaic. Who do you mean you left for the commoners? Who's that? Amar Rav Chisda. Rav Chisda says Kutai. The Kutai, is that what you have in in your Gemaras also? It says Kutai. Samaritans. Okay.
Rabbi Art Scroll.
Rabbi Scroll. No, his first name is Art. Mike Ksav Ivris. What does it mean, Ksav Ivris? What is that? Amar Rav Chisda. Rav Chisda says Ksav Libuna. Apparently, it's some large letters.
Yeah.
And so Rashi puts it. Taisva says that it was written in an outline, and the inside would be. Taisva rejects that. Okay. There was a what do you have over there? Yeah, they have Samaritan scrolls. Yeah. Tanya. I have this one Chumash. There's a guy who lives in Boca. I forgot his name. It'll come to me soon. But he's a scholar of Onkelos. You know, and he wrote several editions of Onkelos in English. His first edition, it compares Onkelos to the other Tanaic sources, to the Midrashim. And then he has another book of Chumash with Onkelos, and he compares it to Rashi and other Rishonim, like all the differences. But in the back of this Chumash, he compares it also to the Samaritan text. It's like, who's he writing this for? Like, we don't have any consideration for like the Samaritan thing. Like it's like a little. I just like threw in another. What's his name? Is a scholar. You know, he really worked on this. Okay. Anyway, it's expensive. His books are expensive. Anyway, so Tanya, a bunch of years ago, I went to Yad Vashem there was this training for teachers how to teach Holocaust studies. So we spent 10 days in Yad Vashem. So in there, they brought in their hero, his name is Professor Yehuda Bauer.
Oh,
was a big professor. Passed away recently. But anyway, I was with Nachum Shapiro, Rabbi Shapiro from here. We went together. So he starts off with him because he was saying about something about religious thing. He wasn't a religious person. So anyway, this professor says, clearly Moses didn't write the Torah because they didn't even have the font. They didn't even have the script that we have. So anyway, I didn't comment, but I said after on the walking out, I said, the Gemara says that we changed the font. You know, you don't have to be more religious than the Gemara. Be so traditional that the font that we have today is the same font that we switched the font by Ezra. You'll see. Okay. No. Who? Oh, Ezra's yard site? Oh, maybe.
We went Onkelos reference.
No, wasn't Yitzchak Schwartz. Come up with something else. Nothing else? Commentary on Onkelos. Tanya Rabbi Yossi Yomer, Royah Ezra Shetinasan Torah Al Yadai Yisrael. Ezra was worthy that the Torah should be given through him to Israel. El Malik Kadmu Moshe, if not Moshe preceded him. In other words, if Moshe didn't precede him, Ezra would have been great enough to give us the Torah. You hear? But Moshe Yomer, Moshe Elikim. By Moshe, it says Moshe looked up to God. Ezra Yomer, who Ezra Allah bin Bavel. It says Ezra came up from Bavel. Ma Aliyah Amar Kan Torah. Just like when Moshe went up, it was to receive the Torah. Aliyah Amar La'alan Torah. Also the going up over there was the Torah. Ezra taught us the Torah. Moshe it says that I commanded to you at that time, or Hashem commanded me at that time to teach you the Torah, the chukim u'mishpatim, the statutes. Ezra prepared his heart, lidris as Torah Hashem, to teach the Torah of Hashem, to expound on the Torah and to perform and to teach the Jewish people the statutes. We're comparing Ezra to Torah. Interesting. Dr. Stein is saying that when you get an Aliyah, you go up to the Torah. Aliyah to the. Yeah.
So is it our understanding that all the change was the fonts, but the words are exactly the same as we have today?
Yeah. A friend of mine explained this to me. Avi Tzvibel, it's a shliach in Oregon. He explained to me from Reb Levi Yitzchak Berditchev.
Amen.
He said that originally the spiritual light of the letters didn't permeate the actual font of the letters. Because it didn't fit perfectly. It was like a square peg in a round hole. It didn't fit perfectly. When Ezra came, because as we get closer to Mashiach, so the spiritual combines more perfectly with the physical. So then the letters, the font changed, and it allows it to become holier for the physical to become holier.
Make a comment.
Well, no.
I used to, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, I used to get the discovery seminars. So I was on the codes. So there was a rabbi doctor, Dr. Learning, who argued
Rambam?
with me and said,
My
you're
Maimonides?
totally wrong because in that time it was a different
font.
So
I'm answering that.
But you just did.
Yeah.
But
So did you
it
have that
didn't
answer
change
there?
the code. No, I got that.
No, so this is an answer. The answer is that now it's more accurate. Then
Well, in the commentary on the Mishnah, the Rambam talks about the superiority of Ashurit. That each letter is distinct and you're never going to mistake one letter for another letter and they don't run into each other and stuff like that.
Right. You have that Gemara that luches. What were the luches written? Because it says mem besamach shabaluches b'nei sayimdim. The Yerushalmi has another version of it. He has ayin shabaluches. The ayin. The ayin. Back then, it's interesting. The cursive writing that we have in Hebrew, the ayin is more similar to a sama.
We did this one.
We spoke about this one.
Yeah.
And maybe we did Megillah or something. We may have touched on this. Even though the Torah wasn't given through Ezra, but the font changed in Ezra. Shnemar b'ksav hanishtavan kosav aramis u'meturgam aramis. They wrote a letter. Now the word nishtavan means a letter. Ksav nishtavan, the writing of the letter was written in Aramis and it was translated into Aramis. It was in other words, it was an Aramaic font and it was written in Aramaic. But the way the Gemara is learning this, ksav hanishtavan means there was a changed font. Now uksiv, and it's written like kahalin ksav alamikri b'shar laida lamalka. This is when the handwriting on the wall in Belshazzar's feast, right? So it says it was written in a writing that they couldn't explain to the king. They couldn't read it or explain it to the king. Uksiv, and it's also written, because of his Mishnah Torah, you should write this second Torah, which means the word Mishnah means also to change. Lama Nikra Ashuris. Why is it called Ashuris? The font. Because it came up from Bavel. Asher is Bavel. Tanya was taught in a brayse, Rebbe Yomer Betchila B'Ksavna Neterli Yisrael. You see, what the Gemara was explaining to us before was that when that hand came down and wrote on the wall and no one could read it, the reason why they couldn't read it was because that was a brand new font that they were getting. That after that they changed the script, and based on that font.
They didn't renew.
So Rebbe says, "B'tchila b'ksavzen in the Torah Yisrael." Originally, the Torah was given with this font. Kivin shachatu nepach lem l'rayetz. But when they sinned, they lost it. It became a stumbling, and then they used a different font. This is another interpretation that it came back. This could have been your answer to that fellow, right? Shenemar shuvu lebitzarein. Return to your stronghold, asirei atikva. Those that are bound and prisoners of hope. Gam hayay magid mishnah ashavlach. Even today, the double promise will be returned to you. Okay, lama nikashma ashuris. Why is it called ashuris? Shemu sheres b'ksav, because it's appropriate writing. Shim ben Elazar mishum Rebbe Elazar ben Parta shnem shamar mishum Rebbe Elazar midoi. Ksav ze leinishtavakol and leinishtanakolika. Then no, the writing never changed. Number vavi amudim. It says the hooks on the pillars. Ma amudim leinishtana, just like the pillars didn't change. Avavim leinishtana, also the vav didn't change. What does the vav look like in there? No, in the script. Okay. It looks like more similar to an F, the letter F, or you know. Okay, v'aimer, and it says v'ala Yehudim kichsam v'chol shainam, and this is in Megillas Esther. And to the Jewish people in their writing and in their language, mala shainam leinishtana afksam leinishtana, just like their language didn't change, also their font, their writing didn't change. Alamani mekaymas mishnah terazos. What did you say that about this change Torah, double Torah? That's it says l'shtei teres achas yetziv v'nichnasim evachsh menachsav beis k'nasav. That's referring to not to the change in the font, talking about to the double Torah, because he has one that he puts in storage, one that he keeps with him. Achas yetziv v'nichnasim. He makes it like an amulet. He keeps it on his right hand. I place Hashem before me at all times, and then the pasuk concludes, and on my right side it will not, it won't fall away. The idach. What does the other opinion do? What does he learn from this? What does he do with this pasuk of shivisi that's referring to the second Torah? He learns it from Reb Chana bar Bizna. Like he uses shivisi to teach me what Reb Chana bar Bizna says. The Amar of Chana bar Bizna taught Amar Reb Shimon Chasida in the name of Reb Shimon Chasida. Hamispal, someone that davens, he has to imagine that the Shechina is standing right in front of him. I place Hashem before me at all times. The Reb Shimon de Amar. Now this is Reb Shimon ben Elazar that said in the name of Reb Elazar ben Parta, that said in the name of Reb Elazar Medoi that the font never, the Amar Ksavza Leinishtana, that the font never changed. My Leikaling Ksav Mikri. What does it mean that they couldn't read that font? Why couldn't they read it if it's the same font? Amarav, Rav says the Gematria was written in Gematria. Now Gematria over here doesn't mean the number; it means Atbash. Aleph is tough, Beis is shtem, and it's Yatas Idach Hug Chamant, like Welsh, which is the Yud changes for a Mem. The Nun is the test is a Nun, which spells out my parashlu. What did he explain? Minei tekela parson. How did he? Okay, the Gemara is going to explain what this means. Minei is a means to weigh or calculate. No, minei means count. Tekel is to weigh, parson and divide. That was written on the wall. Minei alaka malchusach. Hashem will count out your kingdom. Bishlamtalach, and he'll complete it for you. Takel takilta, he'll weigh it out b'maznaya in a scale. V'ishkachas chasir, and you're going to be found lacking. That you're basically your time is up. Parsin, what is parsin? Prisus malchusach, your kingdom will be divided. Yehivas l'madai, a parsin will be distributed to two other kingdoms, to Madai and to Paras. This is Belshazzar is being told this. Shmuel says, no, it wasn't written like that. It was written Mamtus Nankipi Alaron. It was written downwards. You see, they wrote, it's three words. They wrote it. The hand wrote three words, but you have to read it, the script going down. Rabbi Yechon Amar, Anam Lakas Nisrafu, that it was written backwards. Each word, you have to read it, Minei, Tekel, Uparsin, backwards. Each word was written backwards. Ravashi Amar, Nama, Katal, Pursin, that it was written, each word was mixed up, but the letters were mixed up.
So there's a painting by Rembrandt of this, and he held by Shmuel.
Mm-hmm.
The letters are written from top to bottom.
It would be cool if you can get them all in. Yeah.
What do you mean? Get them all?
Well, if you can mix them all up and with Minei, you get all the opinions into one. Okay, we'll have to leave it over here.
And the letters are correct, Hebrew letters.
Oh, should we learn tonight because we're behind? We're always behind.
Oh, Why is it different?
Today,
Learn every
Thursday?
night, learn every
No,
night.
but should we have a shift tonight? So
Why is- no?
let's try to learn tonight. What
Isn't there
time is?
Hillel at night now?
Okay, just post it if it is, and I'll see if I can. Have a great day.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay, bye.
So that book you mentioned yesterday, is that by Menashe ben Yisrael?